So what is the biggest mistakes people are doing, like when it comes to sending emails or trying to get it into, like what is the first thing, like is the red flag that you're seeing when you're looking at
So
email lists? And
the biggest mistake is that people are still marketing, they're still sending emails like it's 2012. They're behaving as if nothing has changed in the last 10 years of email. Whereas that it changes all the time. There's a constant evolution of email, because 10 years ago, all you had to do was build the biggest email list you could, and then you just mail the hell out of it and keep mailing everybody until they either buy or they die or they unsubscribe. And that's how people used to market. And the people that are still doing that now are the ones that are really getting into trouble. Because the problem we've got is that over the last 10 years, then 3 giant mailbox providers have really grabbed the email world in a stranglehold grip. We've got Google, and a typical email list will be made up of more than 50 to 60% of addresses that live on Google, whether it's Gmail or Google Workspace, which is the business side of Google. We've got another 10 to 20% of people that will be living on Microsoft. That might be Hotmail or Outlook.com or Microsoft 365, which is their business version. And we've got another 15 to 20% of people on Yahoo. So you put all that together, and between 3/4 or up to 90% of a typical email list is going to be controlled by the 3 giants that I've just mentioned. If someone is in charge of the email like that, then we have to follow their rules. And it's the same way that historically people have always wanted to be number 1 on Google for search engines, and the whole search engine optimization business came about. And that's people trying to second guess what rules Google have got in place to decide who's going to be number 1. And email is just like that. Unfortunately, Google, Microsoft, and Yahoo don't share the exact rules that they use to decide whether an email is going to go into the junk or the spam folder or the promotions tab or the inbox or whatever. So we have to actually observe from what we're doing and what our clients are doing to see what works and what doesn't work. And the challenge that we've got is that Google and Yahoo in particular, they give free email services away. And of course, there's no such thing as free. So if you're using Gmail or if you're using Yahoo for your email, then unfortunately, if the service is free, then it means that you're the product. It means that Google is selling advertising, Yahoo is selling advertising, and they want to display that adverts. And that happens when someone opens an email. If nobody opens the emails, they can't display any adverts. So they're going to hate the people sending emails that don't get opened, and they're going to love the people that send the emails that do get opened. But people don't necessarily realize that yet. And Microsoft, they're not quite so strong on advertising, but they just hate email marketers, and they just put every single obstacle and barrier in the way possible to get emails through at all. So it means that we've got these 3 big giants, and they've each got their slightly different rules. But the good news is it all boils down to the same thing, which is the more emails you can get opened, the more you're going to get rewarded by these 3 big mailbox giants. Moving on to the real mistake there, yes, people aren't changing their habits, but then there's a huge misconception. If you're listening to this now or watching this now, then have a think about this question for a moment. Your email list is an asset. Now, is that true? Or is that not necessarily quite so true as we'd like it to be? And this is the thing, we have been conditioned, we've been brought up to believe that an email list is one of our greatest assets. And to a certain extent, it absolutely can be. But the frightening thing that people aren't sufficiently aware of now is that a good chunk of any email list will probably be made up of liabilities, not assets. And it can be as much as 30%, in some cases, even 50% of an email list can be consist of liabilities rather than assets. And if you keep sending emails to these people that are liabilities, then you are shooting yourself in the foot, because the liabilities are the people that don't open emails anymore. And if you keep mailing those people, as I said, Google and Yahoo is the perfect example because they want to make advertising revenue. The more emails you send to people that aren't opening them, the more you are hurting yourself by continuing to do this. And it's fair to say there might have been a chicken and egg problem if you go back enough years, that maybe some emails didn't get through to people because there was some kind of other problem. But we can't change the past. All we can look at is where we're at right now. If you're sending emails out to people and they're not opening them, it means that Google and Microsoft and Yahoo aren't going to like you. So we've got to get better and working out, being really clear on who are the assets on our mailing list, and we want to send more emails to them, and who are the liabilities, and we want to pretty much stop sending emails to those. Because one thing you mentioned is, and this is probably the most important point to make, in marketing, we spend tens, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars every year on lead generation. It could be Facebook adverts, it could be media, it could be, there's all different ways that we want people to see our message, and ultimately want them to fill in a form on a website somewhere and give them our email address, because that's that's one of the targets here. Sure, in some cases we can put an advert out there and sell to someone straight away, but unfortunately, very few people buy the first time they hear about something. The real genius in email marketing is the follow-up. The more times we can keep in touch with our audience, the more clear a message we can get through to them, the more likely they are to take advantage of our offer. But if they don't see those emails in the first place, then we're going to be out of luck. And this is the other really shocking fact, is that if you're doing paid for marketing to build an email list, then it's possible that as many as 55% of all the leads that you're capturing will never see a single email from you. And again, this is because most people are still sending lots of emails to their liabilities. And the more liabilities you send emails to, the worse your reputation is with Google or Microsoft or Yahoo. And the worse your reputation is, the less likely it is that new people are going to see that first email that you send to them. And if new people don't see that first email that you send to them, you might as well give up there and then. Statistically, if you can't get someone to open an email in the first 7 to 14 days after they've signed up to your list, they will probably never, ever see anything that you send out. So that means it is really, really important that we do literally whatever it takes to make sure that every person who signs up to your mailing list is actually going to see the first email that you send out. And bearing in mind that even myself, as someone who's meant to be an email marketing expert and meant to know all about getting into the inbox, I would say that even 20 to 25% of the first emails that I send out can still land in the spam folder or in the junk folder. And if that's happening to me, then other people are going to be at least in such a bad situation, and maybe worse. So what we have to do is we have to really stack the odds in our favor to make it as likely as possible that people are going to see that first email. So that means, and old-fashioned email marketers don't particularly like this, because the traditional, click funnels or other similar ways where you're actually sending people to a landing page and you're going to get them to either sign up to something or buy something. On the thank you page, normally we might display a one-time offer saying, hey, if you take this offer up right now, you can buy something for maybe 10% of the normal price or something like that. And that's great if we can get them to do that. But even more important is putting a message on that first page as soon as they've put their email address in, saying, thank you, we have just sent you an email. Please go and find it in your email account. If it's not in the inbox, check the promotions tab. And if it's in the promotions, then please drag it back out of promotions and put it into the inbox. If it's not there, check your junk folder, check your spam folder. And if you find it there, please mark it as safe. Say this mail is okay, and then again, rescue it back out of the spam folder and tell your mailbox providers to put it into the inbox, because you have to train them right from the get-go that the emails that you're receiving from this person that you want to hear from are legitimate and they shouldn't be putting them into spam. Because unless you can get people to do that right from the start, then the worst possible thing that can happen is if, let's take Google as an example, if Gmail decides to route an email into spam and the recipient leaves it there and does nothing with it, then unfortunately that's telling Google that it's okay for them to put every single email in the future into spam as well, because they've made no effort to find it and no effort to actually engage with that person. So when someone signs up to our list for the first time, it's really, really vital that we're doing as much as we can by putting very detailed instructions on our thank you pages. Some people put videos, some people put lots of step-by-step instructions, so that people are really walked through the process of how to make sure that first email is seen. And once that first email is seen, then we still need to encourage people to check in the future. And that's why really well-written welcome emails will often say, make sure you check back tomorrow for the email that I'm going to send you about XYZ. So it's always getting them to anticipate that next email. So they're getting into the habit of looking for your emails, anticipating them, looking forward to them. And if it doesn't show up, then hopefully they'll go and check in the spam folder again, because sometimes Google can be a little bit slow on the uptake. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 goes before you rescue your emails from the spam, before Google actually realizes that this person really does want to hear from me. So it takes a bit of work there, and this is why things like, welcome sequences with open loops and things like that, and telling people what to expect. And the one that I really like, I know lots of people do this now. I saw Daniel Throssell do this. He was the first person I saw, where he has what he calls the time traveler. So every email they send out, he puts a little link in there saying, if you click this link now, I'll send you the next email straight away. So again, you're actually engaging with your audience, and you're motivating them, and you're incentivizing them to actually engage with you sooner, so that you're just making sure that the emails get through. So it's almost where it's not just very little of this now is techie. A lot of this is just about doing whatever it takes just to use psychology to make sure people are doing things, because there are steps we can take to make sure that we're doing other things to help our emails get to the inbox. And I can talk about those in a little bit, but there's no substitute for good old-fashioned psychology and just getting people to want your email so much they're going to go and find it. If you can do that, then you're solving 3/4 of the problem without having to do anything else.
So do you have any examples of people who have done this, and before and after? What did they get out from it, like in sales or in opening rate or something like that?
So open rates is an interesting one, because obviously there's so many different variables that can impact that. But probably the most important statistic is looking at the percentage of people that are engaging with, the percentage of new contacts that are engaging. Because as I said, typically it can be as many as 55% of people that aren't engaging, which means that 45% are engaging. And the clients that we've worked with over, say, typically it's a 2 to 3 month period just to put everything in place. It is possible to get to the point where you're getting 80 to 90% of all new leads engaging with you. So that's effectively doubling the number of people that you can reach from the same Facebook ad spend or whatever else. So it means that the sad truth is many people right now are literally setting half of their Facebook ad budget on fire. But if you can actually put the steps in place that I'm talking about today, then you can actually either save yourself a lot of money and not have to spend as much on ads, or for the same ad spend that you're getting, you can get twice as many people engaging with you and potentially making twice as many sales. So there is a massive upside to doing what I'm talking about here. That is just one part of it. Once we've gone beyond the kind of the psychological side and just getting people to look for those emails, then there's some other steps that you can take.